She looked me dead in the eye, watched me struggle just to stand upright, and told me I didn't need my own wheelchair. I just wanted it. Meanwhile, 3 rows back, a whole different family was busy trying to steal a Nintendo game from an 8-year-old on a public bus in broad daylight. 2 stories today, and by the end of both, you'll understand exactly why this channel exists. I was 21, and I'd been babysitting the same little girl, let's call her Mia, since she was 4 months old. By the time this happened, she was 8, and honestly, we were more like sisters than babysitter and kid. I never once raised my rate in all those years. I did this because I loved her, not for the money, since I already had a real job covering my actual bills. Every so often, when her parents needed a full Saturday, we'd take a day trip into the city. Shopping, sightseeing, the usual. That morning, we caught the bus, about an hour's ride. Tickets bought, everything routine. I'd brought along my old handheld gaming console for Mia to play with on the ride, strapped to her wrist so she wouldn't drop it. She was completely absorbed in her racing game, happy as could be. Until a mother and her 10-year-old son sat down in the row directly behind us. It didn't take long. The boy spotted the console and wanted it immediately. Instead of asking, he leaned over the back of Mia's seat and tried to snatch it straight out of her hands. The wrist strap was the only thing that stopped him from actually getting away with it. I checked Mia's wrist, made sure the console wasn't damaged, then turned around and told the boy as calmly as I could that grabbing wasn't okay. If he wanted to play, he could ask nicely. His mother's response was to snap at me not to tell her how to parent. Then she turned to her son and said, sweetly, "In a minute, honey." I thought that might be the end of it. It wasn't. A few minutes later, Mia's seat started shaking. The boy was kicking it from behind. I warned his mother that I'd get the bus staff involved if it kept up. That's when things escalated fast. I heard Mia yell for someone to let go, spun around, and found the boy with one hand back on the console and the other pulling her hair. Well, his mother sat there smirking like she was enjoying it. I got up, pulled the console back out of his hands without a word, and he immediately burst into loud, theatrical tears. The staff intervened, separated our seats as far apart as the bus allowed, and told the mother plainly that the game belonged to us, not to her son. I heard her still muttering that her son had only wanted to try it and that we'd been unfairly rude to him. I won't pretend I handled that gracefully. I gave her a rude gesture behind my hand where she couldn't see it. Mia caught me doing it and giggled, which honestly made the whole thing worth it. We finished our day, did our shopping, and boarded the return bus that evening. This time, the same family showed up 10 minutes late. Unhurried, licking ice cream cones they had to finish outside before boarding while the entire bus waited. When staff informed the mother she'd be charged a fee for the delay, she argued loudly that nobody had told her the rules, then refused to hand over identification when threatened with police involvement. Mia eventually fell asleep across my lap as we rode into the darkening evening, the console tucked away but still strapped to her wrist. That's when the mother appeared, hovering over me, informing me that her son was owed a turn now since Mia was too old for it anyway. I told her no, quietly, trying not to wake Mia. She raised her voice, demanding to know what gave me the right to refuse. I explained, as evenly as I could, that it was my game, Mia was asleep, and I had no intention of waking a tired child over a handheld console. A few minutes of uneasy quiet followed. I got distracted texting a friend, and then Mia let out a scream that could have shattered glass. The boy had crawled underneath the seats from several rows back, wormed his way between my legs, and popped up inches from Mia's sleeping face, hand already reaching for the console strapped to her wrist. The bus driver stopped the vehicle. The mother, instead of apologizing, screamed at us for making her son cry. A man from another set of passengers finally stepped in to help de-escalate things, asking the obvious question, why exactly was her son crawling under seats unsupervised in the first place? Her answer was that he was a good child who could do whatever he wants.
At that point, the boy lunged for the console one more time, and I pushed him back. Harder than I meant to, I'll admit that. He stumbled into his mother, not the floor, so I didn't feel particularly guilty about it. I stood up, furious, and told him plainly that if he touched us or the game again, he'd be lucky he was still a minor. Because between the repeated attempted theft and literally crawling underneath a stranger to reach a sleeping child, there were several very real ways this could go badly for his family, including a visit from child services, given how openly his mother had encouraged all of it. She tried to shove past me to get to Mia herself. I'm fairly tall, and I play rugby, the only girl on an all-male team, and Mia knew it because she'd watched me play before. For one long second, I genuinely considered using exactly the kind of throw I use on the field. I didn't. 2 other passengers and the driver held the leather back as she thrashed, screamed, and threw a punch that didn't land, still demanding the console be handed over.
Eventually, she quieted down and sat. A short while later, I overheard her on the phone with someone, spinning a wildly exaggerated version of events. Stolen toys, threats, being cornered by several men. The drivers, mortified, had already called the authorities themselves, using the bus's security footage as backup. When we finally arrived, police and an ambulance were waiting. The mother and son were questioned separately. The footage backed up every word we'd said. Both of them were banned from the bus company entirely, and she ended up facing charges connected to encouraging theft, making false accusations, and the physical altercation on the bus. I received nothing more than a warning for pushing the boy. The judge concluded it had been a reasonable reaction to protect a child and property during an escalating, unsafe situation. Mia's mother, once she heard the full story, doubled Mia's usual gift that year, telling me it was partly an apology and partly thanks for standing up for her daughter.
The following weekend, we boarded a bus for another outing, and there he was again, in line, this time with his father instead of his mother. He spotted the console immediately and demanded it exactly the same way. His father actually stood up to confront me, until the same driver from before recognized the boy on sight and asked for identification. It turned out both father and son had boarded under false names, and the boy, now revealed to be 11, not 10, had never even bought a ticket. Police were called again. The father was arrested for resisting officers and ticket fraud on the spot. That day, Mia shared her console with a few other kids on the bus with zero issues at all, and we even exchanged contact info with their parents to meet up again later. Funny how easy it is when a kid actually just asks nicely. That family treated another child's belongings like they were up for grabs. This next story is about someone who took something a whole lot more personal, someone's actual mobility. I live with a disability that causes severe balance problems and muscle weakness, along with a real risk of falling. I can walk short distances with a cane, but for anything longer, I rely on my wheelchair. One day, I took my 8-year-old little sister out for the afternoon. We don't get to see each other often since I live on my own now, so we made a full day of it at the biggest mall in town, ending with lunch and a stop at the play area. I wheeled her over to the playground, and since my chair couldn't fit inside the play structure itself, I parked it right by the entrance. In the same area where other parents had left strollers and shopping carts, grabbed my cane, and walked in to sit with her while she played. About 15 minutes in, she took a small tumble, and I made my way over with my cane to check on her. Cracked a silly joke to stop the tears, which worked because she started giggling almost instantly. When I turned to head back to my wheelchair, it wasn't where I'd left it. It had been moved a few meters away, and there was a child now sitting in it, while her mother spun it back and forth like a toy. I walked over, slowly, with real effort, and asked for my chair back. That's when the mother looked me up and down and said, flatly, that I didn't need it. I could clearly walk, so I obviously just wanted it.
I was genuinely stunned. Yes, I could walk short distances with visible difficulty, cane in hand, clearly struggling. And she was standing there insisting I didn't need my own mobility aid. I told her, as calmly as I could manage with people starting to stare, that I could walk for a little while, but not for long, and that I needed my chair. Her response was to demand to know exactly what was medically wrong with me, as if I owed a stranger my full medical history to justify using my own equipment. She eventually pulled her daughter off my chair, reluctantly, still muttering. I sat back down, my legs genuinely aching from standing that long, and tried to just breathe and let it go. Instead, I heard her loudly telling other parents nearby that I was lying about needing the chair, that I was just lazy, using her own words. I collected my sister as fast as I could and left the food court, both of us shaken. We ended up going to a movie instead, just to reset the day. She loved it, and honestly, so did I, once I finally calmed down. I've had strangers question me about walking before. I've had people demand explanations for things that are frankly none of their business. But that was the first time a complete stranger simply took my chair, sat her own child in it, and then told me I wasn't entitled to it back without a fight. Please, if you see someone's wheelchair, cane, or walker sitting somewhere, treat it exactly like an extension of that person's body, not a spare seat for your kid to try out. A boy who thought a stranger's belongings were his for the taking, and a mother who thought a disabled woman's own mobility was optional. Two very different situations, one identical pattern. People convinced that someone else's things or someone else's needs simply didn't apply to them. Which story frustrated you more? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe for a new story every day. See you tomorrow.